This is the kind of spiral binder I'm gonna have with me all the time. And the information that we see and wanna know for stuff doesn't have to be just when we're wearing our uniforms and are in our marked cars. Anytime we see something, they'll log it here. I don't know how we're gonna communicate with you guys, but we're gonna figure out a way to do it, and we'll get that information flow going. Next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, we'll meet at Liberty Baptist Church.
No, let's meet here. We'll change our meeting until this is a better arrangement for y'all.
So we'll be here. Real-time decision. Meeting's gonna be here.
Anything that we talked about last time you want to go back over for clarification or explanation? Okay. Yes, sir.
The topic of the name cards or ID cards.
ID
cards.
Okay.
Even though we may have the insignias or whatnot on patrolling vehicles, what do you think the response, if we do have to get out of the vehicle for some reason, how do we identify ourselves and have people feel comfortable that we're who we say we are?
We only talked about, rather than like a clip-on badge or something, the necklace type where it hangs around your neck, and then we'll have the shirts on that says it, and then it would be on the side of your car. There's not everybody in Chelsea's going to have a green light on their car.
Well, I'm saying at the at the onset of the bond.
Well, in the beginning, we're gonna have to kind of feel our way along. The cars are gonna be well marked. I would guess in a period of 4 to 6 weeks, we'll have uniforms. And I would think we could have ID cards in that same time frame.
Oh, yeah. The only two things need to take place for the ID cards. One, somebody needs to design it. Okay? Somebody needs to lay out what you want on it, how much information, a place for an authorizing signature, which in my suggestion would be probably the mayor's. Let him sign each of those ID cards as mayor, and a spot for a picture. And we've got the camera at the office. I can bring it to the next meeting, and we got plenty of backdrop and all here. I can shoot the ID pictures. I can make the cards up and laminate them, and I've already got the little laminated forms with the cutout in it where we could run the chain around it. And because I know from experience, if you use the little alligator clips and put them on, you'll lose them. They'll fall off, knock them off. You'll get out of the car and you won't ever find it again. But if you use it a couple lengths of chain, you got it long enough, where it hangs down here, it's not a problem. You won't lose that. That'd be my suggestion. The other thing that will help as you get into this, Jay, is if you have those orange vests in the equipment bag. If you get out of the car at night, you put that orange vest on regardless. So, there's going to be some identification aspects of who you are. But if somebody will design that ID card, then the next meeting we can have the camera here, shoot the pictures, have the mayor, he can already sign them.
Sure.
And we can have them put together in one day.
Ron, your question really is what we do between now and then. Huh?
I didn't know if there was a
Say I'm
concern.
with the Chelsea Citizens on Patrol, see the logo on the side of the car.
Yeah.
See the newscast at 10.
But really,
See my interview on ABC.
if somebody would be so interested in designing one, Jay, basically, all you need to do is something with a picture that size, and then what other information you want to put on it. Name, a picture, this authorizes this person as a volunteer member of Chelsea Citizens on
You can do
Patrol.
both sides.
We can do both sides if you want to.
We all can print them, we just lay out what we want.
Yeah, if you'll lay out what you want, we can make them up and laminate them, do the whole thing.
Okay. We got a volunteer.
Okay.
Come on.
She had up her, and said, you tell her what you want. Well, I can do that.
The things I guess you really need, you need your logo on it. I do scan that into
I've got
it.
a bitmap of that.
Citizens on Patrol volunteer type thing around that logo. Your name, the spot for the picture, your ID number,
Which is on that sheet.
which you're gonna have an individual ID number, so you got your ID number, you got your name, mayor's signature, that's about all you need. I mean, it
You
could
really
be,
don't need your address or anything like that.
You don't want
Or
it.
home phone number.
okay. Yeah, as soon as y'all get that to me, we can get them made up and get them back over here, Glenn, and let the mayor sign all the blank ones. And, the next meeting, I'll shoot the pictures and we'll have them made. All right, any,
I have a question, well, I think relative to that. On the name list, you'll notice that we've got some people's names that they use and some people's are more their formal name. Do y'all have a preference? I mean, I'm kind of thinking we ought to go with the names we use, like J. German instead of John J. Ellis.
And like Gary Hill instead of.
Yeah, Paul, I said, who is Paul G. Hill? Yeah, do y'all want to do that? Go with the names we use? Done. I'll change the list next time we pass it out.
again, back to questions pertaining to any of the things I talked about last time. Your what ifs and what are you looking for and how do you do and any of those kind of things that came to mind over the past several days that you'd like to review.
Well, something, we've been having a rash of deers being hit on the highway. If that occurs, we happen to be patrolling and we see a carcass there, we go ahead and move it out of the road or anything.
Yeah, if you can get it out of the road. Now, let me warn you, not all deer that are down are dead. You can get in one heck of a fight with a deer. One of our deputies who's kin to somebody in this room,
Went dancing.
stepped over the top of a nice 4-point and picked it up to look at the antlers, and yow, it wasn't dead. And the fight was on. So you want to make sure they're dead before you latch on, because they hurt you. But yes, if they're in the road, get them out of the road. If a vehicle struck a deer, need to call it in, because they're gonna need a report for their insurance company. That's a 669-4181 call. That's not an emergency call, unless you got injuries, unless the person's injured.
Besides the deer.
Yeah, besides the deer, injuries besides the deer. I don't think the rescue squad's gonna come out and try and bandage the wounds on the deer.
But there is an animal rescue. I mean, if the deer is not hurt bad, there is an Alabama Animal Rescue. Buddy of mine's wife is very involved in it. And if you call in, I'm sure they can get that number or make the phone call for you.
Most of the time, the deer don't fare very well, and if they're not hurt very bad, you don't know where they went because they're long gone. But you do need to call that in because there does need to be a report made. You don't want to, make the traffic situation any worse. There's nothing wrong with whoever struck it, pulling their car out of the road, getting off on the shoulder, whatever. It doesn't matter. We don't have to go back to the scene and do an investigation. You can drive on to the convenience store or your house and call it in. There's no need to have to stay at the scene from that standpoint. I think by the law, the game warden has to make the decision on the disposal of the deer. If the deer is killed, we don't have the option of awarding it to whoever might so choose. However, over time, I think there's been a whole lot of screech up in the pickup truck and say, anybody want that? And away they go. And, I'm not saying that's wrong, because if somebody can get use out of the meat rather than the animal being just wasted, that's fine. But technically, we're supposed to get the game warden to make a decision as to the disposal or the method of the injured perpetrator in this wreck. But there's been a lot of them. I mean, unbelievable number of car-deer collisions. We've been lucky with the sheriff's department so far this year. We've only hit 4, I think, which is a slow year.
Every year, and then do 2,000 worth of damage.
We had our Christmas party at Teddy Brazier's house for the Law Enforcement Personnel Board, and one of the members leaving there hit one almost right out the end of his driveway. They got up almost to 11, it was a little further than that, and demolished a pickup truck. I mean, hit a big one. So that would be something, as you're patrolling, if you're doing it at night, to do so with great care and wide open eyes, because the number of them out there is great, and the number increases the later it gets. There are more and more of them moving around.
The deer whistles work.
Jury's probably out on it. We have some of our cars, our deputies have put the whistles on. Whether the whistles have helped them or whether they've just been one of the lucky ones, I don't know. I don't know.
So the ones with the whistles haven't been
Haven't
on the board
actually.
that hit a deer.
Yeah. Now, we've had deer hit the cars as much as we've hit the deer. They hit the sides of the cars, they hit, yeah, so it's not necessarily us always colliding with a deer. Sometimes, the deer hits us, or the cars. 8 was our high for one year. We hit 8 deer with the county cars one year.
George?
There was an article in the paper the other day about those deer whistles, and somebody interviewed a mechanic at a body shop. He said half the cars that come in have deer whistles on them. So I've got one on my truck, but not my car, and I think it's about 50-50, as you said.
It might help you, but if a deer is suddenly spooked or scared or is running wide open anyway, it's just one of those things called an accident. They're gonna just get in the way, and the law of physics comes into play. If there's 2 objects in one place, somebody's gotta buy a new fender. So, I don't know. It's a little slower speeds and a little alert, on the shoulders of the road. And if you see one, put on the brakes. Because if you see one, there's more. And what I hear most of is, I saw a deer, and, it was standing on the side of the road, and the next thing I knew, I hit one. Because there was another one over here that took off.
It goes back to your comment about get the bigger picture.
Yeah. A lot of times, you'll see them running, one across the road, and you're going, oh, I missed that deer. Well, there's 2 or 3 more right behind it, while you're looking at this one bang. If you see a deer, get on the brakes quick. Because there's going to be, odds are there's going to be more coming. And those can be serious wrecks. They really can. Somewhere in Michigan, there was a county that hit 8,000 in one year. I mean, they had, they were in, the insurance companies were in a state of shock up there. They had paid out and paid out and paid out to where they were just begging for some relief. Okay, so we kind of understand the information, what we talked about, what we're going to do, what our do's and don'ts are, and what we're looking for. I'm going to come back to that, what we're looking for, because I got a little information on some things that have been going on. And unfortunately, I listened to the scanner here tonight, and there was another one after I told you, Jay, that I heard the second one. People coming home from work in the apartments on Brook Highland, Meadows on the Lake, Meadows in the Park. They've now officially changed the names to Meadows of Brook Highland, but we all still know it is those 2 complexes. 3 burglaries in there today. And that's just, I heard the third one 20 minutes or so ago from people coming home from work and discovering. So that's, there is a burglary problem taking place. And we're just lucky at this point that it hadn't come on over the mountain and headed down in here. But, it's going to. The first really good-sized apartment complex that you get built out here, where they feel like they can roam around in there with a little bit of not being so obvious. Smaller place, strange cars, strange people show up in a hurry. But those are big complexes. Apparently, they're tearing them up. There's already been 3 or 4 in there last week. 3 last Tuesday. So there's definitely something going on. Okay, we had talked about and said we'd come back tonight and address your fire issues and your hazardous materials issues, what to do in those type things, because of you've got 280 out here, which is heavily traveled and heavily truck traveled, both tanker and regular 18-wheelers. But you've got the railroad through here, which is going to have the potential to have hazardous materials things, and we got good fire department expertise here. Bill, you want to talk about what you and I had looked at and give them a little?
Do I need to stand up?
Oh, yeah, I need to get you on camera. Last week, Chris asked me to say a few words about what would the fire department expect
this group, or what would we like to get from this group? The first is, watch out for your own safety. You see a fire, and you come up behind the truck on the way, there's something printed on the back of the fire truck that says, keep back 500 feet. There's a reason for that. Water can slosh out, you hit a bump, things can fall off of the truck, and it can impede your progress too. One thing of paramount importance is to keep the access to the fire free. Don't come right up behind the truck and block it where it can't get out, and try to assist us in keeping other people from doing that too. These trucks have to shuttle back and forth with water sometimes, moving equipment in and out. Other vehicles may be en route coming too, that have to have an access to come in. Watch for power lines. When you have fire, water, power, electricity, then follow water. See, that stream coming down there, don't step in because it may be charged to the problem. Don't jeopardize yourself. Nobody expects you to be a hero. Believe that somebody's trained to go inside and get someone out if they have to. Help with directing emergency vehicles would be appreciated from time to time. If you know how to get into a place where they need to go, they may not. And any assistance that you can give there. The location of where it is, how to get in and out. These big trucks, assistance with backing up, because they can't see real good behind them. It's a real wide vehicle. And where do they need to park, if you know? But other than that, if you have any expertise in that area, then a lot of times we may be short-handed. Come on, pitch in. But otherwise, don't jeopardize yourself. Don't run into it. Leave that to the people that are trying to do that. That's all it is.
Okay, the Chelsea Fire Department are volunteers, and somebody's gonna bring the truck or trucks, and some of those people coming are gonna be coming in their personal vehicles. So you're gonna have to, what you wanna do is cut off the sightseers and the spectators, but you're gonna have to let some private vehicles through because they're gonna have the firefighters in them. And it's a hard thing to determine at night, but generally the firefighters are gonna be coming with their four-way flashers on, you know, something of that nature. If you can see into the car and see rapidly that they're wearing turnout gear, you know, just let them go on because they're headed to help fight the fire. If you don't have any clear reason, somebody pulls up there, find out why. You know, if they just want to see, turn them around, don't let them in there, because the access Bill's talking about, a lot of times, what we gotta do is either get more fire trucks in there if it's a bad fire, or get a fire truck out of there to go refill for water, or respond to a second call. Sometimes we get up in there, it's not a big deal, but then something else happens and they gotta get back out in a hurry. So the access is important, keeping clear roadways, not letting people drive over those fire hoses that are expensive and getting them popped. Those are the kind of things to look for. The further back the citizens on patrol can stop and set up a checkpoint with their green light going and their four-way flashers going on their car, the further away from the scene you can set up something like that, the freer flow of traffic and emergency vehicles. I mean, the last thing we want to do is find out somebody's hurt up there and then the ambulance can't get up there because there's a line of vehicles that are parked in the middle of the road, you know, and abandoned for whatever reason. So everything you can do to put a perimeter as far back as possible and to limit who goes up in there. Again, it's going to be hard to do because you got to be able to figure out that's a volunteer fireman and let him in there because he's got work to do versus somebody who just says, hey, a friend of mine lives up on that street, I wanted to see if it was their house. that's not the time. You know, block them off, turn them around, tell them, you know, after it's sorted out, they can go up and down.
Maybe they give you some lip doing that.
Oh, yeah, they'll get, I'm going anyway, kind of deal. And, you know, I would suggest that you be very polite to them, and you tell them that's just fine. But as soon as the first deputy sheriff gets here, he's gonna come get you and take you to jail, so have a nice day.
That's a pretty strong comment.
And that usually will calm it down.
In a situation like that, all we really should do is just try and get a tag number, description of the vehicle, and when the deputy sheriff goes get there, and just say, you know, this guy insisted on going up there.
Gave me a hard time, wouldn't listen to anything I had to say,
Right.
and we'll go find them and have a chat with them and see why, or what was their, you know, and explain to them that it wasn't the place they needed to be. You know, there was people there that had jobs to do, knew what their jobs were, and, you know, the fewer folks we have in the way, the quicker we can take care of the business aspect of it, get the danger over with, and then, you know, there's a time for sightseeing or checking on some other home or something of that nature.
Chris, do the firemen have ID cards?
Yeah.
A lot of us do.
So you could ask somebody to show the ID card they say they found it.
Most of us carry tags also on our vehicles.
Yeah, the firefighter tag, and again, the turnout gear would be a quicker reference than the ID. If they're
But a lot of people have their turnout gear in the trunk.
in the trunk,
Yeah, they don't put it on until they get
till
out.
they get out. Well, y'all will get to know the firemen. This won't take long.
That's true.
This won't take long, 2 or 3 events, and you'll get to know the firemen, who's, you know, the faces and that sort of thing. It won't take long. That won't be much of an issue after the first couple of activities, because you'll see how it runs, kind of who they are, and if they come up and say, hey, I'm a volunteer fireman, that's not the time to look at ID cards and have a discussion with them anyway. Let them go on. You know, let them go on. Sometimes, and I've seen fires like this, we've had bad situations, and firemen from other agencies pulled up and said, hey, let me help. You know, I've seen North Shelby firemen and, you know, other places that came with that expertise Bill was talking about and pitched right in and helped because they saw a bad situation and they just happened to be there. So any, you know, if that's their answer, if they're a fireman, let them go. Let them get in there. The hazardous materials side of it is a little more deadly. We briefly mentioned that before. You want to be extra careful on any truck or train wreck. I mentioned being upwind. That's not a frivolous comment. You want to find out which way the wind's blowing and approach this thing from the upwind side and stay there, because there are some materials that are airborne that can do serious harm. The 500-foot thing, I kind of, you know, I told you on my bomb equipment, tennis shoes and binoculars, the same thing applies to hazardous materials. The further away you stay, the better off you're going to like it. Err on the side of caution. Don't be a hero. Stop way back, turn the lights on, stop the traffic, and let some experts figure out what's in that wreck up there. Yes, sir.
I work with a crane rental company, and it's been probably 21 years ago now. They had a pretty nasty train derailment in Waverly, Tennessee. And our company was up there picking the railroad cars back up, and they had a tank of propane, and it was right by a viaduct that went over the railroad track. They had the police chief, the fire chief, and a bunch of spectators up there. Well, that car blew up and killed 27 people. Killed a young boy, as a matter of fact, that went to Chelsea High School, Rex Gall, and burned up my other two co-workers real bad. And so those train derailments, like I say, that's a very serious thing. You really need to give them a wide berth, or any kind of hazardous material.
All you have to do is look at the news tonight and see a tanker truck incident. I don't remember where it was, but it was one of our surrounding towns. You see it, one of our surrounding towns, and I mean, it looked bad. What was it? It was a burning tanker truck that wrecked, and it was not that far from here. It's local news.
We had the bad one on I-65 about a month ago at Alabaster, which turned out to be a tar truck. But see, at the time, the tremendous fire and all that smoke, nobody had a clue what was on fire down there. So the real concern was stopping everybody far enough back that if that was some particularly deadly substance, I mean, it was a cloud of smoke and you know, terrible situation. I wouldn't even consider heading up to one of them. I'd stop as soon as you became aware of it, as soon as it was remotely in sight, or if you knew where it was, I'd block the road, turn my lights on, and stop everybody. Yes, sir.
That brings up something else too, Chris, in relation to this. If a pair of binoculars wouldn't hurt to carry, you know, as you
That's
already mentioned.
expected to be in our equipment bed.
As for a distant shot at getting placard number, because that helps 911 too.
That would be a good class for us to have sometime too with the cars, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Identification of, well, you'd have to carry a chart because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Of what these hazardous materials could be and what the ramifications of that could be.
Yeah, we had to train the deputies, and I hadn't done a top-notch job of it, but there's a book that lists all the placards. When you see the little triangular shaped placards on trucks, that number will identify what they're hauling. And that number is what everybody's looking for when they first get to one of these things, is get the number and somebody get the book. And there's 800 numbers in existence for organizations that monitor those and can provide the firemen with immediate information about what to do, what don't do, you know, that sort of thing, how bad it is, what's the worst side of it. You know, don't put water on it, do put water on it, some of those kind of things. And binoculars would be real helpful too in your patrol aspects. If you saw a suspicious activity, you could stop far enough away, look through the binoculars, get tag numbers, and get good descriptions of people that you couldn't get with the naked eye. So you know, relatively inexpensive pair of binoculars is still excellent for this kind of thing, and would be a good idea. It'll let you look out in the street, look at the garage back there, way back behind the house, and see if that door is open. You know, that you can't see, you can't tell with especially with my eyes. All right, we probably will continue to do some training and talking about the hazardous materials and those kind of things. And the reason we do this is not that we think you're going to see one, you know, or 12 a year. You might not see one in your whole time of doing this, but we might see one tomorrow. So the idea here is just to make you prepared for eventualities and keep you out of trouble.
Chris, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
This is a question that crossed my mind when Bill was giving his comments. You mentioned that it's helpful if one of us is out there and we hear the call on the scanner and know exactly where it is to maybe go near it and help emergency vehicles find their way. But I think that's something we should address with this crowd, is when they hear a call and it's not far and they know exactly where it is what to do. Because if they can help facilitate, you know, it saves time saves lives.
Hey, you're going to be driving the speed limit. You're going to be driving carefully and cautiously to the scene of whatever it is, if it's a wreck or a fire or whatever. Bear in mind, there's going to be some emergency vehicles coming that might be a touch over the speed limit. So you want to be alert to get out of their way. You know, pull off the road, stop and let them pass. Don't drive faster than they do, and don't try and you know, you got to get out of their way. As soon as you know they're coming, pull over, stop, let them go on by. Then fall in behind them if they're going to catch you before you get there. If you're going to get there first, park your vehicle in a manner that you don't block any of the roadway or any of the access in there, so that they can make an easy entrance, and several vehicles will be going in there. The trucks, the volunteers, the sheriff's department, an ambulance, you know, all of that sort of thing. So get out of the way. But bear in mind that, you know, as you're heading there, folks are going to overtake you. So be prepared to get out of the way. And this will just take a little hit and miss, kind of getting used to, because every situation is different. Some calls, fire or medical emergency or something, maybe down a little narrow, winding dirt road, and there just ain't any place else to get. You know, I mean, you just have to adapt to what the circumstances are. If that's the case, where y'all want to be is where the pavement and the dirt starts. You don't want to start down the road. You want to stop back here, because then you're marking for everybody else coming. Here's the street. Here's where the turn is. This is where I need to go. And you're not in the line of cars that your Citizens on Patrol vehicle is the fifth one of 15. And there's no way for you to get out. you know, when you want to, when it's over with and you'd like to leave, but the cleanup and all that's still going on down there, and the 4 guys in that crew are lined up behind you and you're stuck. So there's also a good reason to stay out at those kind of distances from it. We're going to talk about a couple of things, and if you got any other questions as I go through this about any of it, just jump in, because Jay, this is informal. I'm going to pass out a couple of things. I mentioned the burglaries. This is some pictures and some information on some of our suspected burglars. What we'll try and do in the course of this thing is give y'all this type of information. Right now, these folks aren't operating in Chelsea. This is the ones that are hitting up in the apartment complexes and the homes on Valleydale 280 and 119, to our knowledge. The addresses that they got on them aren't good. You know, those are old addresses they've moved. But these are our perpetrators. That's not to say that, you know, next week they might decide they've done all the damage they can do up there, and let's go look for some other ground. They're hitting Hoover, they're hitting Pelham, and they're hitting Mountain Brook, and they're hitting North Shelby County right now. The tag number is good on that car. Silver 82 two-door Honda Civic. The Honda Civic is the little Honda. That tag number is good on it. That doesn't mean that tomorrow they won't steal another tag and switch it. But at this point, that's good info. One of our investigators put his card on here. He's told you to call us 24 hours a day and tell them to get a hold of him. You know, that this is who it involves, is these burglary suspects. And you might see them buying Coca-Colas and, you know, honey buns at the convenience store. There's nothing to say that you won't run into them somewhere where they're not performing any criminal activity. And if that's the case, that's how we're going to catch them. We need to talk to these boys. So we're pretty sure this one was in one of the apartments up there, met us on the lake last Tuesday. He took a guitar, an amplifier, and something else, a bag, out of an apartment at a juvenile that was homesick from school. Saw him. Described him pretty decently. Described a silver car, she said either a Honda or a Toyota, and she had one CY for the tag. So she did a really bang-up job for a youngster. But, you know, these are good, solid information. When we get these kind of things, we'll get them to y'all. We may do it through the mail. We'll have your roster here. We may just put a mailing together and send it to you in the Sheriff's Department envelope. And we'll also try to tell you when we call it so that you can tear that one up and move on. You know, you don't want to be looking for somebody that's currently a resident of the Columbiana Hilton. You know, you don't want to burn your energy up. So we'll try and keep you accurate on that. One thing that is happening on this part of the county, and I can't say that it's been in Chelsea because I didn't ask the investigator the specific locations. He's reporting to me that we've had some construction site thefts. They have stolen utility trailers. You know, a lot of times the construction workers bring supplies in on a 16-foot, 20-foot, 12-foot utility trailer. They typically chain it to a tree or the gas line or something of that nature, and, you know, and leave it. Somebody's coming in, cutting the chains and stealing the trailers. This one of the thefts, they stole the trailer with a Bobcat on it and some of the associated equipment, so that got real expensive. The best of his knowledge, this is happening either at night or on the weekends. Obviously, Monday through Friday, daylight hours, the construction workers are there. But the best he can determine, they're either getting them at night or they're getting them on the weekend. You know, he doesn't know whether they're coming Friday night or Saturday night or during the day Saturday or during the day Sunday. But that's the odd zone. So the thing to watch, if you're out any of those times, is watch wherever there's new construction. And if you see a trailer at one of those sites, be particularly regular on that neighborhood and checking that trailer. Yes, sir.
I've been in construction 50 years. And be sure that when you're hiring a guard, do a back check on him, because down here at Indian Springs, he was loading out on the weekends and we couldn't find out who it was, and it was our guard.
Yeah. Yeah, that, unfortunately, that happens more checkbook, they tear the back checks out, guns, anything loose was disappearing. I mean, I know we weren't getting reports on most of it because people didn't miss it for 2 or 3 days or whatever later, then they weren't sure where it went. Getting cleaned out. We put a hidden camera in a car yesterday and sent it through the car wash, and would you believe, first trip, bingo, we had some money in a bank envelope over the sun visor. And man, there was some cleaning done in that car, let me tell you. But we had a camera hidden in there. Of course, got him on, so arrested him immediately, had marijuana on him to boot. So if you go through some of those kind of places, don't leave anything in your car. I don't know what we're gonna do there. I think we're probably gonna continue to put different vehicles through there with the camera in there. But we're
He's
also
probably not the only one.
No. If he is the only one, he's been busy and he's made a heck of a living. But we're probably gonna go down and have a little meeting with all of them and tell them about the polygraph test that's coming. And then they'll probably have to hire a new crew. But seriously, that's a place for your own information. Don't take your car through there with anything in it. Anything in it. Okay, we covered the construction site things that we're aware of right now that have had some current thefts. And we've talked about these particular suspects here. Any questions on that or anything up to this point? Yes, sir.
So we're gonna have spotlights
Yes.
for the truck cams?
Spotlights. Be a
What
big
about, you mentioned earlier that if you're driving by and you see an open garage door and you have an opposition area to see that. On those occasions, would we call the homeowners?
That's one of the ways. A lot of the neighborhood watch things do just that. They call the homeowner
Okay.
and say, hey, your garage door's open, is everything okay?
Then we would need a crisscross directory.
Your size of your operation is more than the typical neighborhood watch. They do a neighborhood directory, and everybody has one. Your size is a good deal more than that. You might want to consider hitting the phone company for,
It's a crisscross
oh,
directory.
yeah, crisscross would be ideal, but yeah, you need some way to find out. Your other option is just call us, let us come out, knock on the door and check and see what's going on. Another possibility, if our dispatcher isn't busy, is, I can't remember if we can go phone number to address. I can't remember if we can go address back to phone number. Okay. We've got that in the system, so if the dispatcher's not real busy, and you can call in and tell them what it involves, they might can enter the address and give you the phone number real quick. You don't want to do a lot of that, but if that were the circumstances, it's easier to do that than maybe to send our deputy over there, because a quick phone call,
Right.
they may answer the phone and say, oh yeah, thanks for calling, I knew I left the door open, or I knew I left the garage open, kind of a thing. We had a deputy that made a lot of brownie points riding around, and every time he saw a car door open, a trunk open, a garage door open, he'd get out and check. Of course, what he did, he helped a lot of housewives move their groceries into the house, because they were between the trip to the grocery store, and they started with one load, and he got the next load and the next load. That's the kind of things that you can solve pretty easily. If you see that, stop and watch a few minutes. Somebody will come out of the house and get the trunk and get another load of groceries out, or they'll come out and close the garage door because they, something of that nature. Usually, if a little bit of patience watching that, it'll resolve itself. If it doesn't, options to call them or options to call us and let us come look at it. Those are the kind of things you need to look at, though, because that's how you find stuff. That's how you discover that something has gone on. Somebody may have been in that garage and stolen the chainsaws and just left the door open. John Deere lawnmowers, by the way, if you have a John Deere lawn tractor, lock it up. Oh, they're stealing, yeah. Must be a market, a particular market, somebody has found a way to dispose of John Deere lawn tractors, because they are really stealing those.
Can I interject something?
Mhm.
On page 5 of the manual, right under general guidelines, it says, going back to your equipment question, each patrol team will be provided with an equipment bag, and we need to create these bags, consisting of, says Amber, green emergency light, gloves, binoculars, pad and pencils, flashlights, address roster, I gotta think about address roster, map, scanner, reflective vest, and I thought Spotlight was on there, and it should be. So those kinds of things, and really, as we get into this, whatever we feel like we need, we should evaluate the possibility of adding it to the equipment that we pass around, and make sure that we have what we need.
Well, I can see a real issue calling the actual people that live there. Because things like that are gonna happen all the time, where doors are open, car doors are left open.
And honestly, I think your citizens will be pleased to hear somebody's paying attention. That'll be the response, is, oh, thank you. To know that somebody had an eye out. That would be helpful.
The only way to do it, though, is with the crisscross track.
That's the only way out,
Unless
unless you
have-
got a computer on board.
Yeah.
And can you do a street address search on the internet? Call somebody that's got one, they can call you back with a phone number.
Oh, yeah, you
I mean, we
can
could
do
do
that. You don't want to get out and go up there and look.
No.
And for two reasons. One is the homeowner might mistake you for a burglar. And two is the burglar might still be there. So that's the two reasons to stay in the car and resolve it over the phone or resolve it with the sheriff's office coming and checking. All right, anybody need to take a break?
Let me just make a comment.
Okay.
I think you brought up a really good point. Let's say you were out and I was home. Call me on your cell phone. You teach me how to look it up. I'll look it up, call you back, or call them while we're on the cell phone. We could work out a way to do that without burdening the deputy, but
It'd really be easier with crisscross traffic.
then you just do it yourself.
Call them direct.
Yeah.
The crisscross is accurate, to some degree. Yeah, to some degree.
Well, you work with a phone company. Who do you ask?
This is crisscross.
Who do we ask?
I don't even know if phone company, no, phone company doesn't actually.
No, they don't publish.
Coal
It's
has,
just, it's outside the corporation.
Coal Directory, don't they do the crisscross?
I forget. I think, yeah, they're better.
We just need the 6, 7, 8 ones.
Yeah, that's all we do.
Dictionary, I mean, it's big.
Look for additional patrols to hit the streets of Chelsea. They're called cops, but they don't wear badges and they aren't getting paid. As ABC 3340's Valerie Carter shows us tonight, like any law enforcement officer, their job is to help stop trouble before it starts.
That affects people. Linda Evett opened this small grocery store in Chelsea 7 years ago. And with the joy of owning a business comes the headaches of crime.
We live 10 miles from here, so I worry about the store and what's happening. And we have had some vandalism, and the store has been broken into in the past.
But soon she'll have an extra pair of eyes to keep watch here. Her neighbors, Chelsea residents, will patrol the community. It's part of a program called Citizens Observer Patrol, or COP. Jay German is a former cop who moved to Shelby County back in the 70s. He helped organize the program.
No, we don't have a big crime problem. We like it the way it is, and this is just a preventative effort to keep it that way because we're experiencing pretty dramatic growth right now.
The volunteers will cover about a 20-mile radius in the town of Chelsea. That will include homes as well as businesses. They will drive marked cars. They will have uniforms, but they won't rely on guns. They'll have cell phones and also flashlights. The city will cover the cost of uniforms, car decals, flashlights, and even a yellow light to place on top of the vehicles. But unlike police, they won't stop someone acting suspicious. Their job is to watch and report.
This is specifically just an observe and report program. You take no involvement. If you see something happening, you report it and get away.
The city doesn't want vigilante volunteers. They want residents who will follow the rules and keep an eye out for people who won't. In Shelby County, Valerie Carter, ABC 3340.
Now the volunteers will receive training from the Shelby County Sheriff's Department. The city hopes to have cops up and running in 90 days.
Well, if you've got Christmas shopping plans for the weekend, and who doesn't?
This is the
one. Even if you can't talk to the operator, an officer will respond to that call.
There's a brand new program in Chelsea to prevent crime. It's called COP, which stands for Citizen Observer Patrol. Fox 6's Shelby County Mobile Newsroom Bureau Chief Karen Church joins us from along Highway 280 with the latest. Karen?
Well, Scott, as Shelby County continues to grow, people in small towns in Shelby County are starting to worry about crime. That's why the folks in Chelsea are starting the program called COP. If you're in Chelsea anytime soon, you're going to have several extra sets of eyes watching you.
Coppersville fire in the area of Sun Valley Road and Klein Road.
We're going to provide this service to the whole town. To anybody that's within the city limits is going to have the benefit of this patrol service.
Jay German is the founder of COP, Citizen Observer Patrol, a group of concerned volunteers.
This is probably the best price performer the town of Chelsea's going to have for a long time. Doors are closed.
Volunteers like Alicia Johnson will get 6 hours of law enforcement training.
So I really think this is an area that needs more patrolling and that kind of stuff, so I'm eager to get involved.
Rogue, unknown entries, law enforcement notified.
Volunteers will be cruising throughout the day, but will not have any real policing powers and will not carry weapons.
Our job isn't to engage, it's to observe and report. If somebody needs to be pulled over, for example, if we spotted an intoxicated driver that was dangerous on the road, we would maintain a safe distance, get a description, direction of travel, notify the law enforcement sheriff's office, and have them send out an officer to intercept them.
Volunteers will share cell phones and other equipment and will soon be outfitted with car stickers and special clothing. Now tomorrow, the volunteers will be getting logos in their cars and start patrolling the streets of Chelsea. This program is modeled after an identical one in Delray Beach, Florida, and since that program started there, crime has dropped 75%. Reporting live from Shelby County, Karen Church, Fox 6 News.
Karen, thanks.
This is the 6 o'clock news.
Home is a place where we all want to feel safe. That's why one community is rounding up troops to make sure their homes are safe. Good evening, everyone. I'm Josh Thomas.
And I'm Brenda Ledun. Thanks for joining us tonight. Ride through one North Shelby County town, and you'll find volunteers ready to spot suspected crime and criminals. Tonight, ABC 3340's Valerie Carter shows us a new community patrol hitting the streets of Chelsea.
Jay German takes us on a ride through a growing Chelsea community.
Growth is a fact of life. It's going to happen, and we can have an influence on it, and that's what we're trying to do, have a positive influence.
That's why German and 13 others in Chelsea are part of the Citizens Observer Patrol, or COP. This is a volunteer group that works with the Shelby County Sheriff's Department to keep an eye on possible criminal activity. Before hitting the streets of Chelsea, volunteers go through 6 hours of training, and they learn everything from how to make a 911 call to what to look for in suspicious activity. And throughout their training manual, there is a common theme: never approach a suspect and never carry a weapon. The rule is call authorities for help. Ron Heidler is a volunteer and a victim of crime.
There's a possibility that would have deterred if people knew that there were eyes out there watching. It would have been a deterrent, definitely.
Alicia Johnson is also a volunteer. She's doing it not only for her family, but for her community.
My children are always outside playing, and I thought if, you know, the area is growing now, that we need more protection, and so I'd like to do anything I can to help the citizens of Chelsea.
You'll know the Citizens Observer Patrol is watching when you see designated vehicles like this and a green light mounted on top. The color green means security, and that's what the patrol in Chelsea wants you to feel in your home. In Chelsea, Valerie Carter, ABC 3340.
And the COP program will begin tomorrow night. The volunteers will be in uniform, armed with flashlights and cell phones.
The new Fayette County are preparing to take to the streets to fight crime. Tonight, about a dozen residents took part in the first training class for the Citizens Observer Patrol, or COPS. They'll patrol the streets. They'll be on the lookout for trouble in marked cars. Any suspicious activity they see will be reported to the Sheriff's Department. Bill Weldon says he's in it for one reason.
We're going to be very high profile, but we're not going to.
I would like to see Chelsea maintain its current standard, if not do better, of security, of being a good place to live.
Weldon has lived in Chelsea long before its recent incorporation. He says its growing population will likely lead